So thank you very much, first of all, that you are here, and many thanks for the many nice presentations today, and also for everyone to make this possible to happen. So all this makes this meeting a very great platform of scientific discussion and sharing visions about research and training. So in a few minutes, I would like to provide a glimpse into how the secondary school training program of this academy works. I have to underline that this is a merit of a team, a very dedicated team of secondary school teachers, mentor teachers, who are organized in a network of excellence. We have to say that when we look back to the recent years and we see their achievements. So all this, what I present here, is actually the product or the fruit of the dedicated work of many secondary school teachers. And all this is actually in motion for you, for the majority of the audience, for the secondary school students. Any discovery can change the society in many ways, and we just think on that how our forefathers at the dawn of the humanity, probably one single person recognized one day how to use the flame and how to ignite the fire. This was probably a transformative moment in the history of the humankind. And this discovery was not just kept for one person or for a family or for a tribe. It was distributed in the society. The society accepted this, benefited from that, and it was also transferred through generations. So without technology transfer, without the transfer of this specific technology, for a moment just imagine how our world would look like today without that. I assume it would be a very dark and cold world, environment in which we would live, but this is luckily not as it has happened. The same stands for the progress of the biomedical sciences. The biomedical discoveries can transform the society, can improve the understanding of the disease, the mechanism of diseases. We can improve the clinical practices. We can introduce early diagnosis, more specific treatment of a disease. We can improve the quality of life, and we can increase the life expectancy. The society, on the other way around, also is a rate-limiting step, and we have to strike a balance between the progress and the society, the dedication of the society, because the society finally determines that how the biomedical science can progress. And every individual person in the society should understand the basic concepts of biomedical research, the ethical background, the technology, how we use something. There is some reflection to the data or the facts, critical thinking, how we can use the novel progresses in science. And all this leads to a decision making, that we accept the science and we support the science. And if we support and we accept, then the biomedicine can continue its development and then can transform and improve the life of the society. In this model, it is very important how we train the new generations for science, so the science education has a very prime role in this association. The mission of this academy is to provide a multi-generation training system, what we just heard, so I am not going into the details. And we have an entry-level training for the secondary school students, which also has an entry, an intermediate, and an advanced training level. The classical teaching in science inevitably is a high amount of facts. We have to deal with facts, we have to sort these facts, we have to memorize these facts. Unfortunately, the increase of the scientific facts, and we live a time when we have exponentially increasing amount of data, so these data and facts are loaded into the students. There is an information overload, and unfortunately the time frame for processing this information, to reflect to these, to critically thinking, to think out of the box, to work in teams, to be creative. So all these activities which would need it to really process this information often limited or lacking. Changing this teaching methodology, the society or actually the academy has introduced a network of secondary schools which is still expanding, and in recent times roughly around about 2,000 students were already participating in the training activities with roughly 150 secondary schools, regional centers, national centers, which are still to be expanded. What is happening in these schools and in this network? There is an enrichment of the scientific education at the secondary level, and secondary school level, secondary grade. There is some online phase, an individual training phase. For example, the signal transmission principles are processed and studied in this individual learning process. There is laboratory-based phase in which there is a structure, function, interaction, correlation analysis, some dissection practices, some histology, normative and pathological histology. And there is also a laboratory course series which is intended to teach some selected molecular biology techniques and prove some hypotheses. And also there is a great networking possibility, for instance, today when participants can connect with each other, with the future mentors, and also can see how science and biomedicine works in practice. Some approaches. So we facilitate the guest speakers, that guest speakers are visiting secondary schools and providing some update on their research. There is an important lab-based science education, learning by doing approach, and also our teacher colleagues, to whom again a big thank you for keeping this system in function in the recent years. There is also advanced training for them, and they are also actively participating in the content development of the training program. Now we reached a milestone, and there is an increased support of this learning activity in Hungary. And it means that the training program is changing a little bit in the next years and also expanding the network behind this. The project-based teaching and the project-based learning activities are quite effective in science education, in which the participants first initiate at an entry level. They are discovering some principles of biomedicine in their home school, with their own teacher, with the guidance of their own teacher. Then they can join a regional teaching center in which they can implement experiments and they can prove some hypotheses. And then finally, in the advanced stage, they can implement even more complex experiments, addressing even more complex scientific or medical problems, and they are inventing new solutions or new knowledge. They are more creative with the analysis and the use, the application of the knowledge what they have gained. Usually, when we enter laboratory practice, the participants receive a protocol. How do they perform the experiments? In this instance, they are actively engaged in data analysis, in the observation, the measurement, and the data presentation and the documentation. And we would like to also increase the active involvement in the problem identification, the hypothesis development, and the experiment planning, because usually there is not just one possible experiment to prove a specific hypothesis. And this is what makes someone a real scientist, that can adapt the hypothesis and in many ways to prove a hypothesis. The other thing, what we observe in secondary school training, that usually there is a correlation between the time spent for the teaching or the education and the capability of applying the gained knowledge in practice. In vocational training, usually in a relatively short period of time, easy application of the knowledge appears, while in grammar school this is delayed and postponed and the theoretical background is elaborated without application. The aim of the program to somehow shorten the theoretical part, but opening a lifelong possibility to constantly building into the knowledge the new experiences, and then use the knowledge constantly in the context of application in reflection and analysis. What is also important in the program, that the participants In the cognitive domains, they are activating cognitive capabilities, which are analysis, evaluation, reflection, and creating something, creating a new hypothesis, a new conclusion, identifying a new problem, or creating something physically presentable product. And the retention of the information in this program is intended to provide discussion, which is a good way to retain the information, practice, many practical examples, and also teach others. The more advanced students can already teach the newcomers, and with that they have a very good opportunity to deepen their knowledge in their specific subject. And finishing this talk, so we know that the mind is not just a vessel, what we have to fill up with knowledge, it's very important, but also we also have to ignite the mind, because the mind is a fire which needs igniting. And this is one mission of this program, and we know that the journey ahead of us is still long, we know it, but we are on it. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Tamás, for your presentations, and I am sure that the secondary school